All right, speaking with JacK Harris of the LA Times. JacK, I know the majority of your coverage with the LA Times is with the Kings. You were covering the game last night, but you were at the Staples Center on Sunday afternoon. You've been around Los Angeles. I'm just wondering, Sunday afternoon, you're at the Staples Center, and news broke that Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 other victims had, tragically passed away. What was the scene like there?
Yeah, it was a really surreal scene out there. I was when someone texted me the news that afternoon, I drove straight out there. By the time I got there, there were probably only a couple dozen people at LA Live. Staples Center itself was kind of blocked off because the Grammys were there that night. At first, no one really knew, what to do, how to feel. There were, at that point, rumors of, was Rick Fox on the helicopter, or were his other daughters on the helicopter, and just this really, these deep emotions that, for me, I'm not from Southern California. I've been out here less than a year. Obviously understood the significance of Kobe Bryant's career, his, impact on the sport, but I certainly didn't understand or maybe realize the full impact he had just on the city and the way that people felt about him. And it became pretty evident pretty quickly being out there that day, talking to fans, just how important of a figure he was to people in this city, how inspirational he was, whether they were basketball fans or not. There were people that were gathered around the main flower bouquet, and then, by the end of the day, of course, there were thousands of people out there, and there were dozens of different sort of little vigil areas, but, there were some people that were just off to the side by themselves, crying, just wanting to kind of be in the presence of other people, but not sure how to handle their emotions, and really come to terms with the fact that this figure that they had come to admire, that, a lot of them used words like invincible and superhero, had, wasn't on the planet anymore. It was really hard to digest.
Yeah, it's so, something I thought about it is, he's such an icon, and for, the younger generation, especially those who maybe grew up watching him play, it's kind of the first, major icon, tragedy that maybe a younger generation has had. I'm wondering for you, people, from age, in their 20s that might have been there, if, what type of emotions they may have showed that, surprised you at all, or anything that you noticed from that.
That was probably, that was actually a good group of the people that I did see out there. Were one of the first people I talked to was a USC student who said that Kobe was this guy that he looked up to growing up. Again, not just in a basketball sense, but as a person who could just help you feel like anything was possible. And I think that was one of the things, especially later in his playing career, and especially after his playing career ended, that Kobe did a really good job of communicating his message to people, the Mamba mentality, in a way that really resonated with people who were fans with him, especially young fans who were, growing up and looked up to Kobe, as kids, watching him, win 5 titles here and do a lot of things that they had never seen before. But then, even again after his career, and seeing him win an Academy Award and seeing him do all these other things in the community, that even if you're just a normal person, especially like you're saying, someone who's younger and had seen Kobe as a player, and now you're seeing him do all these other things beyond the game, it was hard to not feel inspired by that. So, I think when you talk to people out here, some of the ones who have been affected the most by his passing have been, college students or people in their mid-20s who grew up watching. There's another person I saw at LA Live that day who came with this big canvased painting that he said had been hanging in his living room and next to his TV, where him and his friends would always gather to watch Laker games, and he left it at LA Live because he just said that's where it felt right. Stuff like that, where celebrity deaths and famous athlete deaths are always sad, they're always emotional, they're always tragic. But Kobe's death this week, I think, touched something deeper and really revealed a different kind of connection that he had with people in this city specifically.
Speaking with Jack Harris of the Los Angeles Times, and Jack, that last thing you said, I think it struck a chord with everybody this weekend. To see the outpour of support and love and sadness and every single emotion in between, in losing Kobe Bryant, that's kind of what the scene was, like you said, at LA Live near the Staples Center. Of course, the Grammys were Sunday night. But I'm wondering, in the newsroom, I don't know if you ever had the chance to chat with Kobe, but I know a lot of people at the Los Angeles Times have spent entire careers covering him as journalists and, growing to be close with him and just knowing him for so long. I'm wondering what that atmosphere was like inside the LA Times newsroom.
Yeah, I think, and you're exactly right, a lot of people and a lot of reporters came to know Kobe. He had pretty good relationships with a lot of different people. Again, I think especially sort of over the second half of his playing career, when you talk to reporters who have covered the league for a long time, or listen to people who've been around the Lakers for a long time, they note that he really he understood the media's job and liked what was one of the most engaging athletes to talk to on or off the record about basketball or any sort of other topic. I know, like Bill Plaschke's columns, I think I would point to as just a really good example of the kind of relationships that he had with the media. His career, in a lot of ways, was really complicated. When you think to just right from draft night and the way he ended up with the Lakers, and then, of course, all the titles, but also all the sort of behind-the-scenes drama that went along with his time with Shaq. And then there was, of course, all of the off-the-court stuff around 2003 and 2004 with his, court case in Colorado. It made him a very complicated figure at times to cover, but I think by the end of his career and by the end of his life, it also made him, I think, a much more compelling person to look back on and see, he wasn't perfect in a lot of ways, and he made a lot of human mistakes, but he also did a really extraordinary job of trying to genuinely grow from them and show that he had matured and become a better person and tried to elevate his life. And I think reporters are some of the people who really got to see that up close, and who Kobe, I think, made a point of trying to show that to. And a lot of people respected him for that. That to me has been the biggest thing. The amount of respect and admiration that people in the media had for, again, somebody who definitely did have his flaws and wasn't perfect, I think is pretty striking, is a pretty good representation of the kind of guy he was, and the kind of person that the sports world is losing.
When I think of Kobe, and when ESPN was doing specials on Kobe and everything, and they would play highlights of him playing basketball, I'd almost think, why are they doing that? Because kind of as you said, the last few years of his life especially have been defined so much by him being a person and being a father and somebody who is giving back to the game and inspiring others. And it would always, I just felt a little weird watching fadeaway jumpers when they're talking about the legacy of Kobe Bryant. That's kind of what you said, a guy that grew up from the age of 17 to 41 in the media spotlight with cameras around him, following him every single move for the most part. The last few years being out of the game, what do you think he has done, to the women's game in Los Angeles and just to the overall atmosphere in Los Angeles since his retirement of basketball?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of this week talking to different people in the girls basketball community here who had, a lot of people who had befriended him through his coaching of his daughter's club team, and really that to me has been one of the most surprising things is how, he was obviously a big vocal supporter of the women's game at large in the WNBA, and made a point of meeting and trying to build relationships with some of the top WNBA players, some of the top women's college basketball players in the country. But one of the things that I don't think a lot of people even realized he was doing these last couple of years is he got really involved with the girls' basketball scene just locally here. He had his team, but he would also go to high school games, go to other club games, would make a point of trying to, meet as many players as he could, whether they were going to be future stars or not. I talked to the coaches who coached against him in the last game that him and Gigi's team played on Saturday, and the coach said that after the game, Kobe pulled aside one of his best players, and this was a team from Seattle they were playing. But Kobe pulled aside one of his best players and said, I'm really impressed by your game. You should go back and look at my highlights and look at some of the things I did, and here's my number, and if you have questions for me, let me know. And it's little things like that that just add a really kind of special humanizing quality that you wouldn't expect from most celebrities, and you probably wouldn't expect just from most normal coaches either. And hearing some of those stories, just how deeply he did care about some of these things that again you probably wouldn't expect, and you probably didn't even realize until this week.
Yeah, speaking with Jack Harris, the LA Times, it's stuff like that, Jack, that, like you just said, you don't hear about it, but, it says so much about his character and tells you so much about him. You have to think there's so many instances of him doing stuff like that even though, like I said, his life was so much in the media landscape, he's doing behind-the-scenes stuff like that probably every single day, chatting with, the best girl on the other team, giving him advice, give him his phone number to text back and forth and help with the game and stuff like that. It's just amazing to hear. I know last night you covered the Kings game, and they did a tribute to him and a 24-second moment of silence for him and his daughter Gigi and the other 7 victims of the tragedy. What was the atmosphere like at the Kings game in the Staples Center last night?
Yeah, it's going to be a really emotional week in that building. The Clippers play tomorrow, and then the Lakers play on Friday, which is, that's going to be a big night. So the Kings, it was kind of the start of it. It was the first sporting event in Staples since Sunday's crash. The team all arrived wearing Kobe jerseys. There were they had Kobe and Gigi stickers on the back of their helmet. There were a lot of people in the building wearing Lakers gear. They chanted Kobe's name before the game. They did it during the game, and I think it was, the way I kind of felt about it. It was just another small sort of step towards what's going to be a really long healing process for the city. And even though Kobe obviously never played for the Kings and wasn't super close to many people on that team, his figure played such a large role in the city that there did kind of feel this, that the Kings did kind of feel this responsibility to, not just do a normal moment of silence before the game, but to do, they had a long video tribute to him before the game. They played his farewell speech from his last NBA game. They played that during the first intermission. They had his jerseys hanging in the locker room after. Kings captain Anze Kopitar was getting choked up talking about him. And I think it just went to show that, this is a guy that in LA meant so much that any chance teams or people or organizations here are getting the opportunity to sort of honor him and honor his memory, they're going to take it. And again, for the Kings, it was just one small step into, like I said, what's going to be a really emotional week at Staples Center.
It will, and as you said, Clippers playing and the Lakers playing later this week. Jack, I know it's nearly impossible to sum it up into words, Kobe's impact to the game of basketball, to the world as an inspirational figure, and to his family and just everybody as a great person to follow. But if you could find a way, how would you sum up Kobe Bryant's legacy?
I think he's the sort of ultimate role model in the sort of way that, like I said, not a perfect person, made plenty of mistakes in his life, but also the kind of person who recognized that, didn't exactly shy away from it, and really did a lot to try to improve, to try to always, the Mamba mentality thing didn't just apply to the game. It really did apply to, I think, him as a person in a way that a lot of other people looked at and understood and related to. And that to me is the biggest thing. Yeah, great basketball career, a lot of other things in terms of how he supported his own game and the women's game and different sports and different causes. But I think just the way that he approached life and the way that he approached trying to better himself is the thing that has stuck with so many people, is the thing that you just really don't see very often. And so the fact that you had this guy in this position as a role model really embrace that idea and then try to share it with others, try to motivate others to think that way as well. Those are the things that put him on a different level. Those are the things that people really came to rely on him for, and those are the things that I think people are going to miss most now that he's gone.
Jack, appreciate the time, man. I know it's early. Thanks so much for calling in. Jack Harris of the LA Times. It's great to hear your voice. Great to chat with you for a little bit. Really, again, I thank you so much. I hope you have a nice rest of the week. I know it will be, as you said, a hard week in Los Angeles. Hope you and the entire city of Los Angeles can get through it and celebrate the amazing life and career and everything in between that was with Kobe Bryant. Again, thank you for calling in, Jack.
Yeah, Scotty, anytime.
Yep. Have a great rest of your morning. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.